There we go.
Okay, everyone. This is Mark Jensen with ETHOSystems. We appreciate your time today. Sorry for the delay. Today we'll be discussing TimberScan and how that works with Sage 100 Contractor. My name is Mark Jensen. I have been working with the Sage 100 Contractor product as far back as when Intuit just acquired it as an upgrade for companies outgrowing QuickBooks. I stayed as the manufacturer's rep with them up until the point in time when Sage 100, when the product was acquired by Sage and became a partner. Ultimately sold my customer base to Ledgerwood Associates that merged with Cornerstone to create ETHOSystems. At that time, I met Jim Campbell. Jim has many, many years in the construction software world, actually one more than I do. And Jim has worked as a partner selling and implementing software. He has worked in the executive management of software companies, in the executive management for Timberline prior to Sage acquiring the product, and is currently leading the product and the company at AvidX. So I'm excited to have Jim with us today. Jessica Nichols is with Group West out of Nevada. Group West is a very fast-growing company. So, Jessica, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Group West, and why you purchased the TimberScan product?
Absolutely. Well, like Mark said, my name is Jessica Nichols. I'm the office manager for Group West Construction. I've been with Group West now just a little over 5 years. During that 5 years, I have had the immense luck and opportunities to see Group West grow. I was the first employee that they hired. They've always been a general contractor in business since 2009. But you know, they were a very small business at the beginning. I think looking back at historical information, they did maybe $1 million, used to be kind of like their really good year. I came in on the tail of the company hiring a new VP Director of Operations that has many, many years of experience in large commercial industrial building. And his name is Jeremy McGilvray. So he and Ryan both hired me onto the company, and at that time we were averaging about 500,000, like I said, to $1 million, and within our first year we went to 3 million. So there was a huge jump in the pivot of the company. So we went from 3 million. The next year we did 7 million. The following year we did 10 million, and in 2022, I believe we closed out with about 43 million. And we're on track to maybe, hopefully, if everything goes right, to $100 million this year. So we're just growing substantially. And of course, with that growth, you know, we did not expect it. So, you know, we kind of acted not necessarily proactively, but reactively to that climb, hiring new employees and getting them all on board. Hence, you know, why we knew that there were some other tools and resources that we needed to implement. I mean, I learned Sage kind of by fire, if you will. I came from a QuickBooks background. So Sage was definitely a, I would say, growing pains for me when I was first learning, but I have learned now the value of Sage and how it drives our company and the construction costs for our company. So the natural next step was to be able to create an environment to where my staff, my accounting staff, could be productive, could be efficient, trying to take out some of the data entry errors. Before TimberScan, it was completely data entry, and anytime you have people behind that computer, there's errors, there's, you know, just things that happen. One of the best benefits that I see TimberScan being to us is removing that a lot of that potential for error when it comes to data entry. For setting up the templates and those type of things, it's really increased the productivity of my accounting department and being able to get those invoices into our system, things appropriately costed, and of course, making it available and transparent for all of my project managers to manage their budgets and the job costs.
All right.
Okay, with Jim, I'll go ahead and turn things over to you. And if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the questions box. I will be monitoring those and elevating those as questions in our discussion if the time's appropriate. If not, we will get back to all of those at the end of the session. So, Jim, take it away.
Thank you, Mark, and a special thank you to you, Jessica, for taking time to share your experiences with the group today. You know, sometimes we look at tasks and we don't realize the complexity or the number of steps until we put it down on paper, and that's kind of what we've done here today. If we just taken a few minutes to look at the accounts payable process that's sort of traditional. You know, we have invoices that come in. They may come in via mail and we open the mail and then take them that way. They may come in by email, and many people are taking those PDFs and the first thing they do is print them out. Soon after the invoices are logged, we're comparing them likely to a purchase order or a subcontract if there is one. Maybe we're comparing them to receiving tickets that have come in that validate quantities received or validate the good working condition of the materials or that work's been done. There's a data entry step, Jessica, that you mentioned. And then we come on around, and at some point in time, those get routed. Now, routing can take on different methods in a manual process, right? They can be put in a folder, a job folder, and sent to project managers or superintendents. Many people along the way may have to lay hands on the invoice before it's approved. Our accounting system, Sage 300 CRE or a Sage 100 Contractor in this case, needs to be updated for the job costing information. Then we've got the compliance issues that linger, the most notorious of which is probably lien waivers, you know, conditional or unconditional lien waivers, whatever the owner's requiring for that job. And we've got to compare statuses of those or other compliances such as insurance. Another approval step, further job cost coding to make sure that when the financials reflect the invoice that they've been coded to the right work breakdown structure, more approval on the payment or the payment authorization side of an invoice, and even further approval on the final release of funds based on cash flow. And then we end that process with payments being made. And still the preponderance of companies today in the construction industry are fulfilling those paper payments, with paper checks. So Jessica, let me just ask you, before you automated your accounts payable, do these steps look somewhat familiar at Group West?
All well too familiar, yes.
What were some of the key bottlenecks just in reflecting on this process? What were the either the bottlenecks, the choke points, or what were the real pain points in the manual process?
I would definitely say
Jessica,
yes.
could you also address kind of the disparate, the locations that everybody was in? Because I know from our discussions that you're all over the place.
Yes. Yeah, so we have on-site job trailers, and in addition, part of that growth that we experienced was adding on we call it Group West South, but in southern part of northern Nevada, if you will, in our Minden office, there was another sister office added in that area, and so we have project managers, we have assistant PMs, which help, you know, manage those invoices and so forth at different job sites. So literally all of that information was coming from multiple different places and being delivered to multiple different places. So it was like herding cats, if you will. So, I personally, before we took on more staff, I was the one and done with this whole process. And so I've experienced every single you know, facet of what you explained. And I know for myself, the hardest part was that break between getting things approved once they came in, getting them costed, and of course, all of the data entry. It was completely manually entered, from an invoice coming in from a subcontractor, an equipment supplier, a job material supplier, credit cards, everything was 110% manually entered. So plus, you know, I was having to do the AR entries as well, and the AR creations with all of our PMs that time. So yeah, you know, come the end of the month, it was just a scramble to make sure that everything was in, job costs were correct, all of the approved invoices were in, so that way it could go to the PMs, they would approve it, and of course we would create our AR from there.
All right, well, very good. So Mark, is this typical of what you hear from clients when they're coming to you about solutions to streamline their accounts payable? What are some of your reflections?
Yeah, it is. Ultimately, companies are looking to automate and digitize everything in the company. One environmental contractor I went to, their entire building, all of the walls were filled floor to ceiling with bookcases of all of the scanned documents and permits and everything that they had to maintain on the environmental side. So it starts with AP, but then very, very quickly branches out into all of the other areas of HR and AR and everything else. But yeah.
So lots of paper still in the manual systems.
Oh, absolutely. And the issue being, especially in today's environment, and what I've seen with environmental contractors, they have to have access to all of the permits on site in case someone shows up. And TimberScan provides the ability to do that.
All right.
And Jim, can I add one other thing too, that this has really helped us, is that on the compliance end of things. You had mentioned about lien waivers. In our module here with construction, all of our subs must be compliant in their insurance, and because we're audited each year and so forth. And so I have a document specialist now that controls that, and she's using TimberScan as well for the document compliance end of it. So I have my AP using it for the AP stuff, and then my document controller is using this for document compliance that ties into Sage. And it has really changed the game for us on making sure that all of our subs are in compliance, and being able to pull the applicable reports and update their vendor records as necessary.
Well, super. So you've seen some changes then in these areas that we've put little X's beside where you have applied automation, and you go down to the sort of the center left. You're using it in addition, as you said, to track your lien waivers and other compliance documents as a part of that entire purchase to pay experience. So Jessica, let me ask you, does you know, kind of what impact from a time perspective, or what's your estimate of like a typical invoice approval time using TimberScan Titanium now? How have you seen it measurably cut back the amount of time it takes?
So I definitely have seen a increase in the turnaround and productivity. Now with our business module, we kind of work in reverse. All of our AP comes in for the invoices themselves. They go to our PMs to approve, and then our PMs go through the invoices and they approve, and then it comes back to us to enter. But those are all due. I'll just give you our timeline. All of our invoicing and project, anything that ties to that project for that month must go to the PMs by the 20th. That they have between the 20th and the 1st of the month to get those back to us, and for them to create an AR. Then we have 5 days to get all of that into Sage. So
Okay.
if you imagine, I mean, we have probably 20 different projects running, and some of them are quite extensive as far as the information. So giving us only 5 days to get everything into Sage, you know, in any other module, that would have been almost impossible. With the TimberScan taking a lot of the data entry out of the equation, we are able to meet those goals every single month, and we've done it consistently after the first 30 days when we were learning TimberScan. So
Super. So your project managers are accustomed now to logging in to your workflow routing and approval system, seeing the invoices that they're responsible for. Does that help them manage their timeline of getting those back to you by the 1st?
I believe so, yes. I mean, we've had this system in place for a few months now, and we're just seeing just a much better flow from project management to our accounting team and vice versa.
All right, well, very good. So Mark, when clients are coming to you for AP automation, any of these areas here that they're particularly emphasizing?
Whenever I speak with a company, I ask what is most important to them, because obviously Sage has other options. There's Sage paperless and some other things out there. But one of the big differentiators that I ask about, and Jessica alluded to it, was the templates, or the OCR. With Sage 100 Contractor, for companies that are starting at the estimate and then creating subcontracts and purchase orders, the OCR that's available in TimberScan, to have a template that can automatically recognize the invoice, pull up the purchase order or the subcontract with all of the detail in there, it saves so much time that for anyone that is running Sage 100 Contractor from the estimate all of the way through, I don't think there's a better solution out there. In fact, I know there's not a better solution out there.
You're referring to the first box up there, that auto acquire, and as I understand it, that's where a vendor or a supplier would send their PDF invoice to an email, to a designated email box. It might be something like, in Group West, it might be accounts payable at groupwestconstruction.com, for example. So it goes into a designated email address, and then automatically does the sort of the code, the indexing for you, which is a big part of that data entry, and also triggers the routing. That way you would know who to go to in the routing system. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely. And at TimberScan, you guys recognized the importance of that auto acquire and the OCR in the change that you made with the pricing, so that is now just a part of the standard subscription rather than a separate option. But in all of the TimberScan solutions that we have sold through ETHOSystems that I've been involved in, I would not sell one without that OCR functionality.
Yeah, certainly the first step in getting the paper out of the equation. Well, thanks both of you for those comments. Let's look. We've talked a little bit about the actual task, that would be automated through the process of using the TimberScan Titanium product, and how that can save time and productivity. Let's get into some additional benefits of this overall purchase to pay automation. And Jessica, we're sort of going to lift up 3 here. And the first one is really just gaining visibility and control with your entire purchase to pay process. And that, having everything in one platform versus multiple silos, seems to be a key. What are your observations as a user on that?
Yes, I definitely feel that instead of having to go from a human who's either approving or entering, and then having to split that up also, so before, we'd have the humans doing their approvals, humans doing the data entry, and then we'd have to scan the document into our shared drives, file it in the file, but then grab it, attach it to Sage as well. So that way each entry had the applicable either invoice or credit card. So there was, just many different areas where we have to grab information in order to tie it into Sage. That was both on the accounting and then of course my document control area as well. So, again, being able to either, whether it's scanned or whether it's pulled on a PDF into one thing and then it have a automated system to route it to where it needs to go has been an incredible change.
What about that integration into your Sage 100 Contractor? Does that flow well and save some double entry steps?
My goodness, yes. So Mark had mentioned about, and I had noted it for this meeting. So one of the things that it does tie in the subcontract, ties in the vendor and so forth, which has just been amazing. So the one thing that we did notice is it does not tie in POs. So I did reach out to the programmers on that just recently. So I'm hoping to get an answer from them on that. But that was one thing that we found. We don't do a lot of POs because we're a general contractor. It's not typical for us, but we do have some POs that we're tracking, and we noticed when we entered in the invoices, it wasn't giving us any option to bring in a PO or recognize that particular person tied to that project had a PO.
Right. Well, that's good feedback, because that's really what we want to do, and that's a big part of what we mean by purchase to pay, is starting with those committed costs, be them subcontracts or purchase orders, and really it's your first point of validation of an invoice, right? Did we receive what we ordered, right? Did we get what we? So, all right, very good. Mark, any points to add there?
No, I think you've summarized it well. Originally, TimberScan, I was involved with some of the very first clients that Titanium was developed for. And for everyone that, since everyone are Sage 100 Contractor clients, originally the idea was to take the invoice and scan the document, and prior to the routing, that is the point in time when it would post the information into Sage 100 Contractor. It was determined after everything routed out that there were so many changes that needed to be made by the people in the field that the current process was better, where the document was scanned, routed, and then pushed into Sage 100 Contractor, thus eliminating a million, voids and changes and everything else in the accounting system. So the process of posting that information has been very, very well tested out.
Very good. And that kind of leads very well into the second point here, just about an overall increase in efficiency. Jessica, one thing you mentioned earlier in the workflow diagram was that you chose to do things a little bit traditionally, or kind of break tradition, if you will. And it kind of goes to that first point there under the middle column: custom routing workflows shorten the approval cycle. If I understood you correctly, you said you decided to get these invoices in the hands of the project managers as soon as possible, probably for those same reasons that Mark was mentioning, and that is to get it coded right to the right job cost code on the front end before it so it goes in cleanly to accounting. Any comments about that? Did I understand that correctly?
No, absolutely. Unfortunately doing it in the reverse, you take assumptions based on what you think it is, and the PMs in our module of business are the drivers, and the gatekeepers of our budgets. And so it would only make sense that those go to them first. We were also finding, for example, there are some projects that are cost plus for us. So
Right.
having said that, we have to submit backup with ever billing. So those particular projects seem to be the most challenging in the fact of making sure that what is being billed from the subcontractors are true costs, that they're not inflating, and we have to watch those costs before passing those on to the client. What we were finding out doing it in reverse is that, you know, we would do it the way we did it. PMs would sign off on the ARs. It would go to the client. The client's like, well, hold on a second. You know, your concrete guy is billing 30% of the job, and we don't even have a foundation link. You know, we would get comments like that. So we decided to kind of break that tradition and to throw it back into the hands of the PMs, and it gave them accountability, visibility, first of all, and then accountability to their job sites. And then, yes, it gave us a more accurate accounting and job cost each month, so that way they could bill appropriately.
Very good. That actually that ties extremely well into that last benefit or value proposition, and keeping projects on track. Accurate billing, it seems, on the front end leads to timely payments on the back end. And we're all very sensitive today with our suppliers and subcontractors. And we want to, I've seen just a genuine desire by the general contractors to want to pay their skilled subcontractor trades timely, and to keep them very much committed to those jobs. Have you seen that process? You kind of just described it right there as to how timely and accurate billing can help the overall cash flow, both for you to pay them and for also to get work billed to your owners, you know, for the work that's put in place. Any comments on that?
I couldn't say it better myself. Actually, that's probably one of the biggest areas that we have seen improvement on is, you know, keeping the subcontractors accountable. We found a lot of errors and or payments that should not have been made against invoices, especially that tie into change orders. So, you know, I get it all the time. Subcontractors will bill me a change order once it's been approved, even though the work's not done. So, you know, we were paying out change orders that were not completed and so forth. So this really does help navigate those and make sure that, you know, things being billed are correct. You know, and again, I think it helps set the standard for our vendors as well. When we released the implementation of TimberScan in our office, we also at that time implemented to our vendors a new billing cycle and billing standards that did tie into our TimberScan, making sure that things were documented correctly and so forth. With the integration of all of this, it's really helped us quite a bit on making sure that change orders are not only in Sage, but they're approved and that they're billed correctly. We have also seen the turnaround time of our payments and making sure that the payments are right to the vendors. We've seen that improve dramatically.
Jessica, does any of that last point on payment cycle improvement, does electronic payments, has that contributed to, have you seen evidence of that where vendors are getting paid faster by taking payments electronically?
At this time, we do not do electronic payments. We still do the manual checks.
Okay.
So it is definitely not something that's off the table. It's just not an option that we have taken advantage of as of yet.
Very good. Well, that's sort of the, you know, the back end of this whole end-to-end purchase to pay automation cycle, where we're taking it all the way through the purchase order, invoice writing approval, accounting integration, and finishing the swing with electronic payments. It is something that's very much on the rise in today's construction payment cycles. Mark, anything to add from what you're seeing with clients at large?
Well, I think well, first, question came up, is there a video or a demonstration of the system in action? And for anybody that is on this call, I will send out not only a link to the session we've gone through, but also a video demonstration of Sage 100 Contractor integration and the process with TimberScan. With AvidXchange, we talk a lot about TimberScan, but AvidXchange is a publicly traded company that was built specifically to handle this next, the electronic payment side of things. And a lot of contractors have been reticent to embrace that technology, but it only makes sense that once you've got the system scanned and routed and everything else, that a full payment solution should be able to make those payments just like companies will use payroll processors. Well, this really provides the ability to go to a full outsourced AP payment provider as you're evolving your company.
Certainly something to consider in a trending way of the future here. So Jessica, I can't thank you enough for the time you spent with us today. Maybe you could just wrap it up with whatever message you'd like to send to companies like yours that may be considering a shift to automating their accounts payable processes. What's some overall advice you would give them?
Well, I think just to sum it up, if they're looking to pivot the company from, I would say the old school data entry type of module into something that will increase productivity, accuracy, and the overall success of the project from from inception to completion, I would say using those resources such as the TimberScan, making it integratable to your accounting department and having that all-in-one function would be 100% the most valuable choice that they would make for their company.
All right. Well, I think that's good advice there. Well, again, I can't thank you enough for taking your time to share with the group today your personal experiences. I wish you and all your colleagues at Group West Construction continued success. And Mark, any final words from you?
No, thank you for your time. Any questions, concerns, please feel free to email me, call me. You've all got my cell numbers. It's been the same cell number for the last 30 years, so feel free to call. But thank you so much for your time, and we'll let everybody get back to work.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.